calls have come for government to introduce a more permanent solution. Civil society groups are demanding that the state provides a universal basic income grant of 1,268 rands to help the 13 million people currently facing starvation in South Africa. Now let's discuss this further. We're joined via Zoom by Mpho Mhlongo from the Studies in Poverty and Inequality Institute. Mpho, a very good afternoon to you, and thank you so much for joining us. Now, the pandemic, one of the things that it's shown us is how unequal a society South Africa is. Now, how would this universal basic income work, do you think? And do you think that calls from it by the civil society groups will actually bear any fruit?
Afternoon, Unati, and thank you for having me. So we believe that the basic income grant will perform two main functions. The first, which would be to allow people to be able to provide for their basic services, so being able to buy food, being able to buy medication and everything else that they might need in order to survive and lead a decent standard of living. And the second thing that it would do is to help those people to increase their spending power so that they can participate in the economy, which will obviously be good for the economy, because the more money that is injected into the economy and the more people are able to spend, it's good for everyone, and that the GDP will increase. And what we think, because we have had a number of discussions with various other civil society organizations, we think that the strategy and the call that we have come up with will actually bear some positive fruit for this cause.
And do you actually think that government will actually, take this upon themselves to see just some of the logic and the reasons that you are providing in terms of having, an ordinary South African having just this access of funding?
So we have had multiple discussions with the National Treasury, and we have often been met with the argument that they don't have enough money to provide for this. This is an additional expenditure that they can't afford. But we have taken the liberty to conduct research to show that there are actually ways that money can be retrieved from the economy to provide for this. And the longer it continues, the more it would be able to pay for itself. So we can get to a point where this social security measure can actually pay for itself without having to seek money from elsewhere. So it's just about having ongoing conversations and convincing government that this is something that can actually be implemented, and it should be implemented as soon as possible.
And I mean,
now more than ever.
Absolutely. If you look at, and you hear some of the commentary that's coming out of just the 7 day of unrest that we've had in the country, one is shocked with the numbers. We understand that 15,000 people in Pietermaritzburg, KZN alone have lost their jobs, and that's amounting to about 2.5 billion rands has been lost in just Pietermaritzburg. So how extensive has this unrest had on the rest of the country, especially the people that we are talking about today in terms of, accessing those funding?
So currently, as things stand, there is a lot of uncertainty. People don't know how they're going to provide for their next meals. And this is why we feel that, yes, in as much as a 350 would be ideal, we can actually take it a step further and implement a UBIG, because how else are those people going to provide for themselves, for their families? As we've heard that it might take months for some of these shops to recover, for the malls to open. So it leaves those people in a very sticky situation, because where to from here? Where do they go? How do they provide for their families? And what does this mean for the economy at large?
What are some of the stories that you are hearing on the ground? We've just had a couple of reports here on SABC channel just of, families, 14 people living in a 2-bedroom house. I mean, you would think that 1,268 is, the bare minimum. 14 people is just one of the stories. What are you hearing on the ground in terms of what people are going through?
Nati, to be honest with you, people are struggling, and people have mentioned, they've been saying for years that they are struggling, because what we're seeing is that we're seeing a lot of people within the age working group that can't get jobs, that are not receiving any assistance from government and are struggling. So if you don't have money to provide for yourself, how then do we expect you to catch a taxi and go for a job interview? How do we expect you to take care of your families in Makaya who can't provide for themselves? So there's a lot of, while a lot of people are receiving assistance, a lot of people have been left out of the system. And now it's things, the situations that have been happening with the COVID pandemic having had such a huge impact on the lives of many people. More and more people are struggling.
Now, we've seen, just also in the past couple of days, how South Africans can actually galvanize themselves and stand up for what's right. We've seen ordinary citizens, saying no to looting and coming out in their numbers to try and rebuild South Africa. Is that the kind of active citizenry we actually need just on this one initiative? Where we're saying South Africans actually need a basic income, just to survive.
Yes, what we saw happening over the last few days has been really encouraging. It was beautiful to see communities standing up together for one cause. And what we have found is that with the basic income grant, most of the backlash has been from the fact that a lot of people don't understand what it actually means. And already this adds on to the concerns that a lot of people have with the grants, the cash transfers that are already implemented. So some people feel that the money is not being used for a good cause, and some people feel like we should not be doing it. But what we believe is that this will ensure that every person, that every able-bodied person who is unemployed can have a seat at the table and say, I am also contributing to the market and to the economy. So what we need is that we are doing everything in our powers to put the information out there so as to equip people with the knowledge, so and a better understanding of what this really means. And we are confident and we believe that in light of everything that has happened over the last few weeks, more and more people would be able to buy into the idea and understand where the concerns are stemming from, to say this is not it's not a silver bullet solution to all the problems we have in the economy, but it's a step into transforming the whole economy. And we're not going to give up on that. We are going to continue to educate people, to give people the knowledge, to show people and National Treasury where this money can be, where we can get this money from.
Now, on that point, I know that you're saying you have engaged with National Treasury. In your statement, in fact, you say that research that was presented by Duma Gobule shows 11 clear ways in which this universal basic income grant per person per month can be afforded. Perhaps this is an opportunity for you to just talk to us about some of those clear steps and indications that you have given a government in terms of solutions of how they can actually make this possible.
So one of the biggest streams that we think that we can get this money, we know we can get this money from to support this cause, is through taxing the wealthy more. Because what we have seen is that while they might have all of this money, they're not really injecting it back into the market. So they're saving it and using it for other purpose. What we need money to be injected into the economy. So that we found to be the biggest contributing factor, or the biggest consideration where we can get the funding for this cause.
There's a meeting that's happening on the 23rd of July, just to launch this national strategy of the basic income grant. Talk to me a little bit about who is involved in this meeting. What are you trying to achieve with this strategy?
So that meeting will be the third meeting we'll be having. So what we had last week, Friday, is a meeting between various civil society organizations, in partnership with various civil society organizations, particularly the Women's Legal Center and Black Sash. And what we did is we invited citizens who they have identified themselves as wanting to help and wanting to be a part of this project. So we had divided ourselves into 3 groups, namely campaign, lobbying, and strategy, so we can come up with ways on how to actually implement this project. So on Friday, we're going to be having a meeting to launch. And from this meeting, we will be going to various organizations. We'll be taking various steps to try and put it out there, to put our foot down and say, it's been long overdue. We have been calling for this for years. We have seen the need for this, and it's about time we start moving forward and we start acting. So this is not a one person or one civil society organization's call, but it's for everyone. We have a number of civil society organizations have been calling for this. So this is a collective effort to put it out there to say, it's good. We've had the discussions. It's about time we act now.
Mpho, thank you so much for your time, and I wish you the best of luck with your initiative. And it's actually something that all South Africans should rally behind. Mpho Mhlongo there from the Studies in Poverty and Inequality Institute. All right.